Hi, I'm Zach with Preco's Tech Tips. Today I want to talk to you about your basic make-ready kit. Now these are the sort of tools that you really should have within arm's reach of your operators at any time. This is going to allow them to get the maximum output day to day on the job. So the first thing that you're going to want to have at every press is basic make-ready supplies. Okay, we're talking about our vulcanized fiber paper or fish paper. This is what we do our carbon impression on, and also what we add our make-ready tape to. People have a tendency to want to skimp on this, but you really do want to buy the vulcanized fiber paper. It's non-compressive, so your make-ready won't change over the life of the job, and it also is very long-lasting. Typically, these will last longer than the die itself. Now on those, when we're ready to add the make-ready, we need to have some make-ready tape or shim tape. Now I want to preface that it is never acceptable to use packing tape or scotch tape. Those are going to flow and compress under pressure, and your operator is going to be spending the majority of his time trying to make up the bad make-ready. What you want to use are tapes like this. This is glassine tape. It's non-compressible. You'll see there's different colors. Those denote different thicknesses. We've got 1 mil, 2 mil, and 3 mil. If I had to choose just one, I'd choose 2 mil. 2 mil is all around. It can be used in a lot of instances. If I put it just off of my line, it's really good for 1 mil. If I put it on top, of course it's 2, and I can stack it for thicker instances. The other shim tape you can use is stainless steel shim tape. Now you have glassine and you have stainless steel, and they're somewhat interchangeable, but not totally. I can use my glassine shim tape on the back of my fiber make-ready paper, and I cannot use it on the back of the die. The problem is the pressure will burst this tape. Stainless steel shim tape can be used either on the back of the die or on the make-ready sheet, either one. It really is handy to have both in your toolkit. The other thing we'll need is some various pieces of ejection rubber. Most of the time, or all the time, your die is going to come in from your die maker already rubbered. But often you're going to find that you may need to modify or change that die rubbering, be it to pull a full packed rubber out and spot rubber it, or spot rubber it from the get-go. It really helps to have several different durometers, thicknesses, hardnesses. I've got these thin pieces here that I can use for tight dies, pre-cut long strips. This is actually coated with an anti-static material. And then we've got different densities, such as this green Gorilla, which is very dense. I would add in too that you can actually use different densities of rubber to offset an uneven die. So if my die is not symmetrical, I can put denser rubber in the areas where I have less rule to compensate for die rock, things like that. So it really helps to have several different thicknesses, several different durometers of rubber on hand. Another thing when you're running that helps is to have some static control. This is simple static string. It's a conductive threaded string. It's very, very handy. You just attach it to a grounded metal part. It can be any part on your press, and then let it drape over the material. If you're having problems with it sticking to the die, sticking to your knockouts, just not wanting to progress, this stuff can be a lifesaver. The other thing we want to have on hand are tapes. Sometimes we just need to attach things down. If you're using a vision press, this stuff is great to have. All it is metallized mylar tape. What you do is you use this on the background behind your camera, and it really brings out hard to register images. Handy stuff to have. Another good one to have on hand is non-stick tape, be it Teflon coated tape, bump tape, sometimes also called printer's tape. If you're ever processing any adhesives, especially live adhesives, it's handy to have on hand because it's going to keep the material from sticking to parts on the press. And then you just have your basic painter's tape, packing tape's okay. You may have to find yourself getting creative, taping different parts down, chutes, hold downs, things like that. It's always handy to have, or to just give yourself notes. Another handy tip for the painter's tape is if I have a tracking issue, I can tape this down, use a pencil or a Sharpie, make a line, and I can visually see where my material is moving to. That being said, always have a pad of paper, pens, pencils, Sharpies, to take notes, do simple calculations, things like that. In the toolbox area, you're going to want to have a set of Allen wrenches. almost every fastener on a Preco press is going to be metric, so at least have a metric set sitting handy to adjust things like your edge guides, tensions, things like that. Very handy to have. Absolutely, you're going to want to have scissors. You're cutting webs, introducing webs, cutting off rolls. You need to have a good set of sharp scissors. Often I'll see operators searching for their scissors, and that takes a lot of billable time. Again, if you're doing any sort of registered die cutting, it helps to have a printer's loop. This is going to let you really zone in and see where you are to allow you to do your part adjusts and get the die really tightened in. Simple tape measure. This is really handy for figuring out your progression lengths, figuring out where you need to center the web on the die. It helps to have one handy at all times. Some precision measuring instruments, although not totally necessary, really help out if there's any question at all about liner thicknesses, dialing in tight registration, tight tolerance, things like that. These really help to measure. And then moving on to your die tools implementing, you may find that you actually want to pull your own rule, replace rule, maybe you're experimenting with different perfing rules. It really helps to just be able to do that on site rather than sending the die out to your die maker. So what you can use is you can just have a simple rule puller. This will let you pull the rule from the die. And then what they call often a rawhide hammer. This one is actually a newer one. So it's made of a polymer, but this is what you use to actually seat the rule so that you don't bend it or dull it. And then really another handy thing to have is this is called a die Knicker. It's a spring-loaded carbide tip chisel that if I have a die that's cutting too clean and I need the parts to stay in, I can place this down, pull it back, and it'll put a real fine little nick in the tool holding those parts in. If you don't have one of these, a little tip I can give you is just take an old piece of rule, hold it perpendicular to the rule you're trying to nick, and just give it a little tap with your hammer. And that'll give you a nice little nick as well. So these are the things that you want to have always within arm's reach to allow your operators the best productivity throughout the day.